YouTube not listening to its audience and actively trying to destroy its own platform? What? So if you didn't hear, YouTube tweeted this out that they are removing the dislike bar from its platform. And naturally, a lot of people are upset about this because it's a dumb idea. Like, I get what YouTube is thinking behind this, but there's just a lot of problematic reasons of why this is dumb, and it's very transparent to the real reason they're doing this. We'll get into it. I thought the best way to do this would be to react to their announcement video. Oh, this is gonna be a fun one.
Hey folks, you may have seen a while back that YouTube announced it was experimenting with making dislike counts private to only the creator of the video. Now, if you're like me, you were surprised by that. I mean, I've always thought seeing the number of dislikes on a video helps us know as viewers if it's a good video or not.
It does. Like, the dislike bar is very important for a YouTube video, and it just shows how out of touch some of these people are with the app that they are making. Okay, let's just keep going. Keep going.
If it's a helpful tutorial or not, or if what a creator is saying in their video is generally agreed with or not. But unfortunately, research teams at YouTube have found there's this whole other use for disliking a video that I had never experienced as a creator, and you may not have either. Apparently, groups of viewers are targeting a video's dislike button to drive up the count, turning it into something like a game with a visible scoreboard. And
okay, so here's the issue. This is what they claim the reason is of why they're removing the dislike bar. That's what they claim. And in a way, it's not a total lie. See, they're trying to say that this is like, oh, this is for the creators. You know, this is to help the creators out so they don't feel like they get targeted by dislikes. But let's stop for a moment. Let's just stop for a moment. What creators have this happened to? And when I say that, I mean, obviously, there are probably examples of like some normal creators who got targeted by a bunch of hate groups. I'm not going to pretend like that hasn't happened. But the main people this happens to are big corporations. And I'm guessing they don't like it. And YouTube is doing this to appease them. I know Nintendo had a whole issue with this where they had a bunch of dislikes. I don't really follow that. I don't know the whole issue. The one example I remember just off the top of my head is I remember there being a Call of Duty one, something along those lines that got a bunch of dislikes. The very specific one that I remember is League of Legends. Anytime a new champion gets released, I would, I used to play the game a lot. I'll go check out the champion spotlight. They released Seraphine, and I was like, oh, wow, this has a lot of dislikes. What's wrong with this champion? So this is my biggest issue with this whole thing, is just the lack of transparency. If they were just straight up and be like, look, I'm gonna be honest, a lot of these big corporations don't like getting a lot of dislikes, and we think it's better for them. In all honesty, like, just being honest like that would do so much. It would just help so much. But then they're trying to pass off like, no, this is for the creators. And then they do something even worse in a minute. Hold on, let's get to this.
And it's usually just because they don't like the creator or what they stand for. That's a big problem when half of YouTube's mission is to give everyone a voice. So earlier in 2021, YouTube experimented with making the public dislike count private to see if it would help reduce these coordinated dislike attacks across the platform. And after analysis, they did see a reduction. So the update from YouTube is that the dislike button is staying, but the dislike counts will now be private. You can still dislike videos, and that action will be used to tune your own recommendations, but you won't be able to see the dislike count. Only the creator can find it on the back end if they want.
So here's the issue. They claim this is for the creators, and I believe at one point they even say like, oh, this is, like mental health and anxiety or whatever. They try to claim that as like, we're doing this for the individual creator to help them not feel bad. Look, as someone who has dealt with bits of anxiety in my life and has uploaded videos that have gotten some negative feedback before, not on this channel because this is my first video here. If you want to like and subscribe, that'd be awesome. But what I'm saying is, if you have anxiety and you are uploading videos and you're getting dislikes, see, their whole argument is, well, see, now it's only visible to them. How does that help the issue? If you have anxiety about uploading videos, you're gonna check the amount of dislikes. If you get, like, this doesn't help them. Like, removing the dislike feature as a whole would maybe help them, and I could maybe understand that. I don't agree with that idea either, but that you could at least make an argument there. But the fact that it's still visible to the creators doesn't help. If anything, it makes it worse. Because, like, when you get a bunch of dislikes, at least you could argue, like, okay, I can use this as feedback. But when you get a bunch of dislikes that only you can see, I feel like that would make it feel like they just hate me. And they have a point at the end of this video when we get to it that completely undermines everything that they said throughout the whole video, and I'll explain when we get to it.
Now, a few common questions we saw from the initial experiment. First, without a public dislike count, how can viewers tell if a video is worth watching? Again, I kind of had this question too, but it turns out that while viewers might use the dislike count to give them a sense of a video's worth, when the teams looked at the data across millions of viewers and videos in the experiment, they didn't see a noticeable difference in viewership, regardless of whether they could see the dislike count or not. In other words, it didn't really matter if a video had a lot of dislikes or not, they still watched. Next.
Okay, so this is the big thing that I have a major issue with. And it completely undermines the whole point of this entire thing. So let me get this straight. You say this doesn't affect viewership. YouTube's whole algorithm is based on watch time. So they know how much time you're spending watching a video. Your whole issue is targeted attacks. But now at the same time, you're saying it's not affecting viewership and they're watching the whole video. So that's not a targeted attack. Let me put it like this. What happened to the Marvel movie, The Eternals? That was a targeted attack because the movie hadn't even been released yet and it was already getting review bombed. They didn't even watch the movie and were giving it negative reviews. This is not a targeted attack if they're watching the whole video and disliking it. That just means a lot of people didn't like the video. Like, that's a completely, it undermines everything that they just said. We want to reduce targeted attacks, but also dislikes don't affect how many people watch the video and for how long. Like, for example, I'll go back to the League of Legends Seraphine thing, because I dislike that video. I also want to point out, I don't dislike a lot of videos on YouTube. I typically avoid videos if it shows up on my homepage and it looks like something like, I probably wouldn't like that. I typically just don't watch it. But so I watched the League of Legends Champion Spotlight for Seraphine, watched it, and noticed all the dislikes. I started looking up, why is this getting so many dislikes? And I started to understand. And yeah, I was like, okay, I kind of want to make a point of why I also dislike this. So according to YouTube, that would be a targeted attack. I disagree with this character being created in a video game, and I dislike their YouTube video. That's a targeted attack. Can't believe you did that. And to go back to some other stuff they said, they were talking about like, oh, tutorials. Do you know how often there are scam tutorials on YouTube? Apparently not, because their fucking Twitter, which in the cringiest tweet I've ever seen in my life, someone responded like, what about scams on Twitter in response to this? And they were just like, big sigh. Scams are not allowed on YouTube. That doesn't mean they're not there. I can give you personal experience. How many times I'm a video editor. I've had issues with Premiere Pro, and I've tried to look up, wait, how do I fix so-and-so issue with Premiere Pro? I've had people on YouTube tutorials with thousands of views that are just like, hey, download this, that's totally not a virus. And one of the main reasons I find out it's fake is, first, I noticed the dislike bar. Like, I'm gonna be honest, if there is a video and it's a tutorial and the like versus dislikes is relatively okay, I typically don't go check the comments. But in a video where the dislikes are super high, my first thought is, okay, go check the comments, see what they're saying, and they'll be like, oh, it's a virus. Great. Dude, one time I had an issue with my car, and just to let you know, I don't know shit about cars, like, at all. And I Google searched how to fix it, just because I didn't know, and the tutorial told me to put antifreeze in the oil. It's not a good idea. If you know anything about cars, I found that out from, doing some extra research and noticing that it had a huge dislike bar. And also I found out from scrolling down that the guy who made it as a joke. and even put in the comments like, hey, don't do this. But yeah, it'll basically destroy your engine. Don't do that, okay? If you're watching, don't do that. But let's be real here, YouTube. If you want to be 100% transparent with us, you're not doing this to help any creators. You're doing this to help your relationship with big companies that post on your app. Big company posts something like, oh, look, EA's making a new Star Wars game. It's got loot boxes again. And it gets a lot of dislikes. EA goes to YouTube like, hey, we don't like this. YouTube's like, all right, fine, no dislikes. How is this not different than like deleting reviews? Like if you own a restaurant and people are like, oh, this restaurant's bad, and you start deleting reviews. How is this any different, you know?
Next common question. If creators can still see the dislike count on the back end, how's that any different? They can see it if they look for it inside Studio Analytics under the Engagement tab. But overall, it's much less likely to cause stress and embarrassment if the count isn't visible to the public. And one more.
Okay, so this is the whole point I just made earlier. If they are a person that's like worried about getting embarrassed, first of all, if you have like high anxiety, maybe posting on YouTube just isn't for you. I'm not an expert, but you know, just maybe posting on a very public platform with the chance of getting a large audience isn't the right idea. But if you do, there being a dislike function at all would trigger that. And like I said, if anything, having it be private makes it worse, because yeah, sure, there's some public embarrassment of like having a video with a lot of dislikes, but having that be private and you have to go out of your way to check it makes it feel more personal. Like there could be an argument to be made if I made a video and a lot of people disliked it. It's like, ah, man, maybe I was just wrong. You know, and there's a lot of dislikes and people are like kind of roasting me in the comments. Fine. But when it's private, that just feels like, man, a lot of people hate me.
More common question, is this because YouTube Rewind got lots of dislikes? No, although there are some teams internally who have learned the hard way what it feels like to get lots of dislikes. Now, this again is about...
Stop. Look, I in all honesty, I love that response just from YouTube. Like the fact that they put it in here is hilarious, but the just response of, no, shut up. We don't want to talk about that. We moved on. YouTube Rewind. It was totally a good idea. Like, look, I'm going to be honest. I don't think it has anything to do with YouTube Rewind either. I don't think YouTube really cares, you know, what people think about them. At least not the general public. This has all to do with whenever a big corporation like a Nintendo, like an EA, like whoever makes Call of Duty, I'm naming video game companies because I play a lot of video games, but like anything like that, a large company posts a video that gets a lot of dislikes because people are like, oh, this is a bad idea. Why are you doing this? This is what that's about, because they think it's a bad look for their company to have a video that maybe they probably hyped up because it probably has a lot of views, that they hyped up a lot and got a lot of dislike. That's what this is about. Stop lying to me, YouTube. All right, so that's the video. I mean, that, like I said, I wouldn't care. Like if they were completely honest and just said, look, a lot of our advertisers don't like having videos that have a lot of dislikes and all that stuff, that'd be one thing. But the guise of like doing this, well, we're doing this to help the creators and they're like, so they don't feel embarrassed. I mean, seriously, when is the last time you've seen like a just regular creator post a regular video and it get like hate dislikes like that, like a targeted hate dislike? Name it. Like the only people I could maybe see that happening was like, oh, Jake Paul or fucking the Dobre brothers, like some people like that already are kind of disliked by the majority of adults on this app. But like for random YouTuber who is like 700,000 subs, you know, a decent viewer base, they don't get targeted with hate dislikes, and that's what YouTube is claiming they're trying to help here. Doesn't happen. This just feels dangerous, man. It just feels bad. As much as YouTube likes to pretend it's just another social media app like Twitter, it's not. People use YouTube completely differently than they use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even something like TikTok, which is another video platform. YouTube is a completely different service. YouTube is much closer to something like Netflix or like Hulu than it is like Twitter. What I mean by that is even Netflix has a rating system and it works kind of differently than something like YouTube. But imagine one day Rotten Tomatoes came out and just said, hey, we're removing the ability to give any movie negative reviews because we've had some bad experiences in the past. And what I mean by this being dangerous, like, I've looked up how to do stuff on my computer and seen stuff that is obviously viruses. My 60-year-old mom has probably looked up tutorials on how to do stuff on the computer. What if she searches on YouTube and just like, how do I download Chrome? I don't know. Whatever problems boomers have with computers. And it shows up like, here's how you download Chrome. Just go to Mediafire and download this file. And then she downloads a virus. Without at least there being a dislike bar, there is some level of like self-awareness of even an adult would say, oh, a lot of people dislike this thing. Maybe this isn't trustworthy. I'll go somewhere else. I don't know, man. This just seems dangerous. It seems bad. It seems... I'm never a fan of removing voices. Yes, there is always going to be a problem of just the loud, obnoxious, I'll say haters, for lack of a better term, who are going to do stuff like that. You know, stuff like I said with the Marvel Eternals, who are going to give the movie negative reviews before it even comes out. But there is a big difference between targeted hate and criticism. You know what this reminds me of? Whenever Star Wars The Last Jedi came out, and a lot of people didn't like that movie and went on Rotten Tomatoes afterwards and gave it a negative score, and it was a bunch of people, like, I saw a million media outlets being like, it's Russian bots and the alt-right hating this movie because it has a woman in it. It's like, or maybe a much simpler option. A lot of people just didn't like it. I was one of those people. I gave the movie a 1 star. I don't know, man. This just seems dangerous. YouTube, I think it's a bad step. But hey, you know, in a few months when the dislike bar is gone, it's not like anyone's going to be able to say anything about it because the criticism's going to be removed. The one thing this will increase, though, is I swear to God, every single YouTube video is going to have its top comment be, use my comment as the dislike bar. All right, so that's the video. So if you want to be awesome, like, comment, subscribe to all that stuff down below. That helps me out a lot. This is a brand new channel for me. I do have another channel where I play video games. You know, I'll put the link down below. It's just Jayce Cornell Gaming. I stream on Twitch. I've got TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all that at Jayce Cornell. You can find me. See you guys next time. Peace out.
More common question, is this because YouTube Rewind got lots of dislikes?
No.